Hello, MPA 545. This is Professor James Curtis, and I'm making this mini lecture, if you will, to address a couple of issues with respect to the week 4 assignment. A lot of folks had trouble with the week 4 assignment, and I offered office hours that not all of you could make, but we went over what the issue was with that week 4 assignment, which seemed to run through virtually all of your papers where there was a problem and you got dinged 4 points on that thesis paper. And that issue, that problem that you all apparently struggle with, where the vast majority of you at least struggled with, is the thesis statement and the thesis paragraph. So I'm going to give you an opportunity per request from one of your number to do an extra credit project. I'll describe that in a little while, to make up points on that thesis paper. And it's going to be pretty simple. It's not going to hurt. It will only take you maybe 30 minutes. And more likely it's going to take you about 10 minutes. So before we get to that, I want to give you an analogy with this, about this thesis statement, about this thesis paragraph. A lot of the feedback, actually, I also heard that you didn't get the feedback. So I should be able to adjust that in Blackboard today so you'll get your feedback. Those who made the meeting, the office hours about the week 4 assignment, I gave them their feedback during the written feedback during those office hours, but I'll make sure that you all get that. The feedback for the vast majority went something like this. Where is the thesis statement? If you don't have a thesis statement and a thesis paragraph, you don't have a thesis paper. All right. So the issue is that a thesis statement and a thesis paragraph have to be in a certain order, in a certain place in your paper. So the place that the thesis paragraph needs to be doesn't have to be the first thing out of the box. It doesn't have to be the first thing out of the gate, but it has to be early in your paper. It should be in the first couple of paragraphs after your abstract or introduction, somewhere in there. The thesis statement and the thesis paragraph must be, again, must be in this order. Thesis statement followed by three supporting statements for that thesis statement, 3 supporting sentences, if you will, for that thesis statement. Then in the body of your paper, those 3 supporting sentences become the sections of your paper. All right? So a lot of you had parts of thesis statements. You had a thesis statement, maybe it was at the end of a paragraph, and then you went on to talk about something else. It must be in that order, all in one paragraph. Secondly, the thesis statement must not only lay out what you're going to talk about, unions versus management in the public sector. There's an issue there, they have a problem. It also must have what I call an argument section. That is a section that in that very sentence that says so or however, and then offer a proposition that you will prove throughout your paper. For example, the unions are upset because they're not getting a raise, and management in the public sector says we can't give you a raise because revenues are down, because taxes are down because of COVID-19, right? That's essentially a summary of what the conflict is going to be. And you can go ahead and expand on that conflict in your conflict section. That statement alone is not a thesis, however. You need to have a proposition that you are going to seek to support with those 3 subsequent paragraphs and the three sections in your paper. Unions and management are butting heads about the raise, so, or therefore, or whatever that part of speech is called that you throw in there. The only way to resolve this issue is through facilitation, is through binding arbitration, is through the mini trial option, whatever your proposition is. Now, that doesn't have to be the argument or what you're trying to prove, but there has to be something attached to the brief summary of the conflict that you're going to give me that tells me what you're going to prove in your paper. It could be unions are always right, or management should be able to dictate whatever the rules are. Whatever you want to say is fine. It doesn't matter, and I don't care what it is that you argue for. But what must be there is a complete thesis statement. Please, if this is not making sense, look back at that video, the week 4 video, how to write a killer thesis statement, and understand that there is the laying out of whatever the conflict might be in a very brief and rather general way, followed by, so this is what needs to happen. Therefore, this is what needs to happen. So here's my analogy. And I apologize for being a little long-winded about that. So my analogy is cake, all right? And this actually happened to me. Do not judge. Thank you very much. I'm not the baker in the house, and this is why. I tried to make one of these. I was trying to help out the love of my life. She was tired. Honey, I'll do the cake. Don't worry about it. She goes to bed. I get in the kitchen. I'm going to make this cake, right? There are basically 4 ingredients to a cake, this box cake. Maybe not to all, but this particular cake. The 4 ingredients, not unlike your thesis paragraph, the thesis statement, let's call that the cake mix. And these 3, I'm not sure if it's coming up too good on the camera, water, oil, and eggs. Let's call each of those representing the 3 thesis supporting statements after the thesis statement, your 3 supporting sentences. Those 4 things, the mix, the water, the oil, and the eggs, make up the cake mix that then you can bake and have a cake. All right? I know this sounds ridiculous, but please bear with me. If you do not do what these directions say at the specified time in the specified order, you will not have a cake. So what happened to me? Again, don't judge. I didn't put the water in. I put the eggs, I put the oil, I put the cake mix, I baked it, it came out. It was a lump of hard, I don't even know what you call it, like hardtack bread or something like that. It was a little flavorful. It was edible, barely, but it was not a cake. Why? Because I did not have all of the ingredients and I did not do them at the right time. Now, I could have added the water later after I got it out of the oven. Would that have made it a cake? No, it would have made it a mess, a mush. So if your thesis statement is in one part of your paper and your 3 supporting sentences are 2 paragraphs later or even in the next paragraph, that is not a thesis paragraph. It must be in the correct order at the right time. The right time at the beginning of the beginning of your paper, someplace very early on in your paper, and in the right order, in the right sequence. It is, again, thesis statement, 3 supporting sentences to the thesis statement. And those are the sections of your paper. So here's your extra credit. Your extra credit is point out, and this is the exercise that I did with the individuals who showed up for the office hours on this issue. Copy and paste in a document, and actually go ahead and copy it into the message board. Don't, well, do I want you to attach a paper? Yeah, go ahead and attach. Make this a document that you attach, that you upload, a Word document. Format, I don't care about. All I want you to do is 2 things. 1, I want you to copy and paste from your actual paper where your thesis statement and your 3 supporting paragraphs are. Then I want you, with that very same information, I want you to rework it into the format thesis statement that has an argument, your conflict and your argument. Unions and management aren't getting along, so management should be able to make the decision. That can be your argument. That can be your premise that your paper will prove. Again, I don't care what the premise is. Thesis statement, lay out the conflict in a summary fashion, give me your proposition, what you're going to argue for, followed by 3 supporting sentences in the same paragraph. That is a thesis paragraph. So copy and paste your thesis statement and your supporting sentences if they're in your original paper, and then rework them so they're in the proper format. If you do that, I will give you full points for your week 4 project. Not that you're going to get 100 necessarily, but you will not, I will unding you for the deductions because you didn't have a thesis statement or a thesis paragraph. One other thing that came out in the office hours was the idea that you will remember, hopefully, when I sent out a notice about Think lawsuit, right? Some of you interpreted that as an additional requirement for the paper that you may have already written, because I did it like in the middle of the week, like on a Thursday or something. It was not an additional requirement. It was simply explaining what I mentioned way back in week 1, and that is ADR, alternative dispute resolution. The A, alternative, stands for an alternative to litigation, alternative to a lawsuit. Therefore, the conflicts that you set up must be something that can lead to a lawsuit. It was simply a reminder. It shouldn't have been anything new. It is simply what the conflict is supposed to be. So it can't be a conflict like Joe thinks that there should be donuts every morning and he's upset and management doesn't want to buy donuts, so now we're going to go to mediation. It should be something that can lead to litigation. So 3 points. Thesis paragraph, like my cake analogy. The change in the assignments, there is no change in the assignment. There is nothing added to the assignment after the Sunday lecture. If I do anything extra like this, it's simply to help explain something that you already assigned. And you've got your extra credit assignment. Copy and paste, and then reformat. That should only take a page. And if you have any questions, you're going to have another thesis paper in week 6. If you have any questions, I will look at your thesis statement and your thesis paragraph and help you format it properly. I want you to succeed. I want you to do well and continue to excel as you excel in your own fields and at your own jobs. I'm not here to be a roadblock, but I would be remiss if you got out of this program as master level degree holders and did not know how to properly format and write a thesis paper. And indeed, if you don't get that right, down cold, it's not complicated, but it has to be in a certain format, in a certain order, right? Remember, cake has to be a certain way, else you don't have a thesis paragraph. It's an integral part of the comp exam. So when you get to that comp exam, I want you to kill it. I want you to nail it. And knowing how to do this where it's second nature is going to help you do that. And I want to help you do that. And I want you all to get there. I appreciate you all. God bless you all. And stay tuned for the week 5 lecture.